Welcome to TTC Boxing in association with KO Clothing and IFL TV. Here with me, I'm joined by Renee Gartner, who's emceeing the upcoming Northern Sydney Fight League. Thanks for joining us, Renee.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries at all. I know this is your first sort of foray into emceeing, but you're involved in other things around the sport. I understand you're presenting the upcoming NRL Fight Night and a few other bits and bobs, so we'll get onto that in a little bit. But I understand you know a couple of the fighters that are involved in this fight night, training at the same gym as Mark Lucas and Rex. What do you know about those guys? Have you trained much with them, or is it more what you've heard from the trainers, or what are your opinions on these guys?
Yeah, Mark I've trained with for quite some time. I was fortunate enough to go away with him with the New South Wales team in 2014. So I've always sort of been in awe of what he does, and in particular with his coach as well too, in Najmi, and that sort of ended up having me dragged down all the way to Shell Harbour and down to their new place at Albion Park with Forte Boxing Academy. Yep. So Mark is just a freak of nature. I think he's had about 75 amateur fights, and this is only his, I think, 4th pro fight. So he's a little bit behind in terms of how many his opponents had. So he's probably had a few more to his belt. But just his training-wise, he's one of the most dedicated humans I've sort of ever been around. He's just super sharp, and he's trained with me a bit. He's taken it pretty easy when he's had his chance. But yeah, he's an absolute weapon. I can't wait to see him fight. And Rex as well too. He's another one. I only sort of just started training with him, but I watched him and Mark both spar the other day, and yeah, he's a very unorthodox sort of style boxer. But they'll both definitely be walking away with a win, hopefully.
Absolutely, and I understand Rex has been away from the sport for a little while, and this is him kind of refinding his love for the sport and had a lot of work going on over the last couple of years. So has he spoken about that with you, or with Nudge the coach? Is that something that's come across?
He's probably spoken about with Nudge. I haven't sort of had that in particular in-depth conversation with him. We did sort of mention both of us have had some time away from the sport for a while, and it's sort of been good for him in a way. It's kind of refreshed him, and he's come back with a really sharp attitude, which is obviously what you need when you're coming back into the boxing ring. You can't sort of shy away from it. So yeah, he's looking good and really sharp.
Excellent. And so I know, like I say, you're sort of coming back into it after a little bit of time off. So for people who don't know, obviously the amateur side of things not as well promoted. What's your kind of background? So as you went away with Mark to nationals. I know you've when you were fighting out of the same gym as myself, you were going away to a few competitions as well. So tell the people a bit about yourself and your sort of background.
Yep. So I've been boxing for about 3 years. I'm an amateur welterweight with New South Wales. So both Astrid and I have come to blows a few times in the ring. So that's, I guess, why our sort of relationships developed in helping with this fight night. It's quite good. You can be friends outside of the ring. But I had a bit of a spell, but fortunately enough, I've still been invited back with the New South Wales team, and we've got the Australian Championships in November, which is actually the pathway to Rio. So a lot of the Olympic hopefuls will be going through with that. So I'll be going through to sort of help mentor a little bit and keep the girls busy when it comes to the weight cuts.
Excellent. And so we touched on this with Astrid the other day. Women in sport and women in boxing is growing, particularly in Australia, very, very quickly. How did you find getting involved in the sport 3-4 years ago, and what were the sort of challenges you faced, and how has that changed over the last few years that you've seen?
I guess for me, I started with a charity fight, and that's sort of where the addiction sort of came from that. But I guess for women going into boxing or any sort of combat sport, there's always that mentality, oh, you're a woman, like, oh, beautiful women shouldn't box, or women in general shouldn't box, and there's sort of that stigma that's always attached to it, or that if you box you're a really aggressive person. And I know myself, I've never been in a fight outside the ring, and some of the girls that I box with are just some of the most gentle humans. And same with the men as well too. Like, there's so much respect garnered. You get in the fight, that's where it happens. Once you get out of the ring, you get out. And the discipline that I've found that's come with the sport has really helped me both inside and outside the ring. And I just think seeing things like with Astrid coming along as a promoter, and I know a lot of the girls that I fight with in New South Wales, they've gone on, one of them's gone on, Shelley Watts, to win a Commonwealth Games gold medal, and Kay Scott as well as the Commonwealth Games there as well. So I think it's growing and growing. I still think women are probably, the girls that are fighting now are probably 5 years in front of where, their time. But you can just see more and more girls are walking into the classes, more and girls are becoming part of the corporate fights, and that'll in turn then, from amateur, then they become professional if they sort of want to make some more money out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And so, I've definitely seen it in gyms across Sydney, that the amount of women in the gyms has grown hugely over the last few years, and soon that'll transition to competitions as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Shelley Watts winning gold, and so very sort of promising sort of amateur there at the moment, and hopefully we'll see her make the transition into the pros as well. So, and just wanted to touch on you're coming up on the NRL Footy Show Fight Night as well. Has much of that card been confirmed? Do you know who's going to be on that show down in Brisbane?
I'm not sure if all of them being confirmed, but a Northern Beaches boy in Foley, he's going to be fighting on that night as well too. I think the last time I saw him, he broke his hand in one of the last rounds on the Gill card.
Yeah.
So that was pretty epic. He's an absolute freak of a boxer. Yeah. And Jaya Patel, obviously former amateur and former junior Olympian as well too. He'll be back out there as well. So, I mean, they're starting to, I guess, gain a little bit more credibility in some of the fighters that they're having on there, and I think it's going to be a really great card.
That's it, they seem to be shifting more towards actual boxers now, which is always going to be good for the quality. Well, look, so the show's on October 30th, and what are your thoughts? You live on the Northern Beaches, boxing in Sydney, as you often have to travel out, Homebush or further afield, and it's never the easiest way to. It's not easy to get home, as I know. So, what are your thoughts on, say, Astrid putting on a show in the Northern Beaches? Do you think there's a market there, and is this going to be something we're going to see more regularly? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you only have to look at the card and see that there's about 3 or 4 actual Northern Beaches people on there, and even just people from the North Shore. So. I think it's brilliant. We do a lot of travelling with boxing. You always end up sort of in the inner west of Sydney or, way out the back. So I think it's brilliant. And what she's doing is sort of creating a really classy event around it as well too. I think, again, the stigma with boxing is that, it happens in the pubs and clubs and it's a bit sort of rusty. So, I think it's a great facility, and having it here in our backyard on the Northern Beach is absolutely fantastic. So hopefully there'll be a few more and a few more Northern Beaches stars rising.
Excellent. We'll the weigh-ins obviously next week, as is the fight night. So we'll catch you there. Wish you all the best in your MCing debut.
Thank you very much.
We'll catch up with you then.
Thanks.
Cheers, Renee.